you have to be your biggest fan. And when things are really tough and they're really rough and nothing's working, but there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that. Because you don't know who you're going to meet, who you're going to meet, who you're going to meet.
Well, welcome to Austin. Should be a ton of fun. I'm really happy I'm here, obviously. A lot of you guys have been kind of asking, okay, when are you going to go out here? And after a long couple days of travel, very busy schedule here in Dallas, we finally ended up here in Austin today. So today, that's what we're hanging out with. That's what we're doing, really. We are going to be heading to TCH right now. Going to hit up the bank, drop my sister off at a friend's house, and it should be a really good time. I am super excited to finally sit down and play the live stream game. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to play the big live stream game. Should be fun. 2-5. It actually plays smaller than I thought it would. I mean, I feel like I'm going to say that and I'm going to jinx it and it's going to get huge. But should be a ton of fun. Nonetheless, I'm happy you guys are joining me today. Should be an awesome and special vlog. I'll see you guys soon. Let's get over to TCH. Alrighty folks, before we get into today's video, a couple of quick things of note that I want to mention. First off, thank you. Thank you guys for supporting us even during this time. It's been getting crazy, you know, COVID cases going up, every casino in Los Angeles closing for that matter, and not a lot of content to put out. And I've been holding off on this one, and I feel like you guys obviously noticed that I haven't posted in like a month. And I ask for your forgiveness for that as well, but the fact that you guys are still able to, you know, continue to support us, it means a lot to me. And I mean, thank you guys, seriously. Beyond that, a couple other things I want to mention is, if we can get this video to 1,000 likes, myself, the boys, we're going to be giving away signed patches. Yes, signed patches. Really cool. Kind of lame. I used to make fun of it, but whatever. It's fun. I think they're really cool. We made a ton of them. I'm not going to charge you anything. There's no, like, I'm not going to give away, like, one at a time. We'll give away, like, 20 of them, like, 40. I don't really care.
What's up, guys? Tune in Friday to the live stream to get a chance to win some free close to broke patches. We'll see you there.
Beyond that, another big announcement to make. We've been live streaming a ton. You may be asking, Kiran, where the hell are you live streaming? Because I don't see you. You've live streamed like a couple times on YouTube. Yeah, okay. We're on Twitch. Twitch.tv/hey guys, it's Kiran. We're actually live streaming this freaking Friday, January 22nd at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You may be saying, like, who gives a shit? Why would we go there? Two things. I want to build this community to get even bigger. And beyond that, there's like a barrier here that maybe you can't see, but, you know, there's like a camera and then I have to wait to upload the video and export it. It takes a lot of time. And with all that being said, I'm not actually able to see you guys. So I'm going to ask you guys for a big favor. Come to the live stream. We're giving away AirPods. What? AirPods? Yes, I said it right. We're giving away AirPods. We're giving away a bunch of other stuff. We're going to give away more patches on the stream. I'll see you guys there. Don't be a square. It's time for me to shut the hell up and get to the fucking video. Deuces. Alrighty, so we just pulled up to the Texas Card House. Game should be cracking off in a little bit. We're getting the chips and players settled in. Let's see how we do, man. Hopefully I don't lose all my money. So, a little bit different of an angle than we're accustomed to seeing, but considering this is a live stream game and we're not doing anything like usual since we have the cards up, this should be a good time. Anyways, very first hand of note, E decides to raise it from the first straddle. I look down an ace-8 offsuit in the second straddle. And although I do really like playing aggressive in these spots against his exact player type, I decide to just make the call. But future reference, against his exact player type, it is super, you're going to print money by being aggressive in these spots, especially when it folds to you2. Anyways, flop is absolutely beautiful. The flop is ace, ace 9. Can't ask for a better flop, and he decides to lead out for 85. Playing in flow here, I don't think there's any reason whatsoever to raise. If I'm behind, I am extremely behind, considering I'd be getting smashed by every other ace that is in his value range pretty much. Ace Jack, Ace 10, Ace King, Ace Queen, Ace 9. But beyond that, I think that I want to keep our ranges very wide and just make the call here. And I go ahead and do that. On the turn, we have the deuce of hearts, so maybe that's slightly scary in some aspects. That now that's one less ace that we lose, that we beat. But considering that I have the ace of hearts, in some different ways, I really like having this card here, because on different runouts, I can even turn my hand into a bluff. But we're getting beyond ourselves here, and we're going to go ahead and watch E blast off yet another bet, a bet of $350. So he's absolutely polarizing himself in this situation. Again, now I'm getting pretty worried at this point. When he bets this large, his hand is fairly polarized. We're looking at like Ace Jack plus in this situation for the worst trips here, and then a couple of bluffs. But I go ahead and make the call either way. And the river is going to be the absolute gin card. It's the 8 of hearts. So, I mean, there's nothing better than making a full house in poker, right? I mean, I guess a straight flush or whatever. But nonetheless, he goes ahead and thinks over for quite some time. And as you can see here, he decides to make the check after a little bit of pondering. After it gets to me, I think it over a bit, and I'm trying to figure out the right price. I have about 1.4K behind here, and there's 1K in the pot. So, honestly, I don't think there's a better bet than going all in there. And as you can see, it goes through. He has 9-3 offsuit, so kind of a wacky one for him there. Anyways, going right into the very next hand. He decides to raise it with his hand. I don't want to be spoiling these hands already. I look down at 7-4 diamonds and make the call here. I really hate my call pre-flop. I think if I'm going to play this hand, I don't want to play it 5-6 ways. And there's a lot of just flatters in this game. And not only that, but by just calling, I think I'm inviting myself to a lot of 3-bets behind me. There's some pretty decent players behind me that are going to be fairly aggressive against what seems to be a weak just call. Especially against E's Open, which a lot of people are going to attack. He's a very good player, but he is very, very loose and aggressive pre and post flop, to be fair. As you can see here, it gets 3-bet by J-Win to $80 or $60. It's a little hard to tell from the graphics here. And I go ahead and make the call. It's just too small for me to fold with E calling. It's just too good of a price. And these are the sticky situations you put yourself in when you call with 7-4 diamonds pre, right? Anyways, we go 3 ways to a flop, which is Ace 10-5 with 2 spades and 1 diamond. We flop ourselves the double back doors. Those are always fun sometimes, I guess. But this is pretty much the absolute disaster flop. We get 3-bet. There's an ace on the flop, and I don't flop any equity whatsoever. So we're pretty much looking to be over with this hand here. J-Win goes ahead and bets $80 if I'm not mistaken. And it gets to E, who pretty quickly decides to fold his pocket deuces. And it once again gets over to me. And I actually take this bet sizing as a sign of range. I think that saying it's a sign of weakness would be pretty stupid. But I go ahead and raise it actually to $180. Jesus Christ, $250. My mathematics is terrible. Anyways, we raise it to $250. And again, the reason being is that with his bet sizing on the flop, I think he's betting range here. And by range, I mean that he's betting everything in his range. So whether that's an absolute bluff, a value hand, or whatever the case may be, I think he's betting his entire range on this board. Anyways, the turn is a 7 of clubs. So we do pick up some more equity here, but this is the absolute nut low card I want to pick up in this spot. There's very, very, very few instances where this card is actually going to make me the favorite in any way, unless he has exactly like King Jack of Spades. But even then, we're doing really poorly against that hand. I, for some reason, decided to bet $375, and this is where the hand goes wrong. It's really wrong. When you don't pick up a diamond, when you don't pick up any of those straight cards that we're talking about, any of those double backdoors, I think it's time to shut down, pack up shop, and get the out of this hand, if I'm being fair. By c-betting, by continuing this bluff, I hate it. It's terrible. This is not GTO. This is absolute nut low stupidity. But nonetheless, we make the play. The turn comes with what I really hope that the river comes what I hope the turn came, which is the 3 of diamonds. And now I'm in a situation where I'm at pretty much the nut low I'm ever going to get to this river with, besides maybe queen jack or king jack of spades, I guess. But having just a pair of 7s, I'm never good here. So I decide to continue with the story and bet $675-ish, if I'm not mistaken. And again, we're making it look like value. I'm betting 600 into a pot that is like about 1.5K. So I'm going for a very small sizing, honestly, especially in live cash game poker at around 40%. But with all that being said, I don't know what I'm representing here. I mean, the only hands for value that I can have that can go 3 streets is maybe ace 10, pocket 5s, and that's pretty much it. I think those are the only 2 value hands here that I have. And not only that, but I mean, I have a ton of busted straight draws, a ton of busted flush draws. I mean, the straight draws that I'm going to have are like queen jack, king jack that I just turn into a bluff and get really aggressive with. And beyond that, I mean, not much more in the value range and a lot more in the bluff range. So we have all the flush draws that make sense here that can just go bet, or check, raise, bet. And not only that, like I said, when my value range is so small, I think polarizing is the better play. So I hate my bet size on the river. I hate my turn bet. He decides to call it off with ace queen, and we're wrong there. So, shucks. All right, the very next hand that we're going to bring up here is not loading, of course. This is what we love to see. Who wouldn't like to see a choppy thing? But anyways, Dante looks down at his hand and thinks it's fine enough just to limp here. Limping has not been really invited in this game. People have been super aggressive pre-flop, so it honestly blows my mind when it gets to me. I believe in the straddle or the small blind, and I look down at 6, 7 of diamonds from the big blind. Excuse me, and I just make the call, and the straddle makes the call as well. This isn't the flop, as you guys can hear the commentators talking here. That is not the actual flop. That is a flop from yesterday, they said. With all that being said, I actually flop an open ender here. And E decides to lead out, and he bets $30. I decide to make the call. Dante decides to make the call, and Tillman decides to make the call. So we're going 4 ways to a turn. We're going to need a magical one, and bing, that's it. It's the 4 of clubs. We have the absolute nut straight. It's a beautiful spot to be in, and there's a lot of draws out there. There's an insane amount of equity out there, and I'm already getting worried about what's going on in this pot, especially 4 ways. Nonetheless, a bet of $115, if I'm not mistaken, from E. So pretty interesting spot here. It's weird for E to have a bet on a card like this. But with all that being said, I know immediately my play is to raise here. I need to get everyone behind me out of the hand, and I want to get a heads up here. I go ahead and do just that. I bet $275. And if you see what happens there, Dante actually folded what was an insanely strong hand. Dante folded the gut shot straight jar with the flush, which he shouldn't be folding in that situation. I think the only reason he did was the SPR was not there. He had like $700 behind at that point, if I'm not mistaken. So it was either go with it or go without it, right? So he decides to make the fold. E decides to make the call. We're on the river here. Obviously, the river's a king of spades. Just catching up with the graphics here, obviously. E thinks about it for what seems like an eternity. And he eventually decides on a check. It gets to me, and now I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to bet to extract the maximum value? And is this king of spades actually a scare card? That's the thing you have to remember. The flush draw, the front door flush does get there, but E's line of bet gets raised, just calls, doesn't really match up with what we're suspecting or thinking here, which is just a flush that beats us at this point, and then I guess a full house. But when I'm raising the turn and he's not re-raising me, he obviously doesn't have like 8s full of 5s. He doesn't have 5 full of 4s. So I'm almost always eliminating his super polar, nutted hands by the time we get to this river. And I can comfortably say by his timing on the river, I don't feel like it's likely that it does have a flush here, and especially with the way, most importantly, screw the timing stuff. That's just personal. If I'm putting any equity in that. But what I will tell you is that the way the hand is played, I don't think he can ever have a flush here. Maybe sometimes, but even then it's just not likely unless he has a hand exactly like ace-4 spades that can get to this river this exact way. Even then, why the heck is he betting the turn? You know, it wouldn't make too much sense. All that being said, you see that I obviously bet $535, betting about 75% pot exactly around that spot. And we leave it to him. The decision's to him. I'm really happy with my bet size at this point if he's even considering it. Personally, I'm putting him on a hand like a single pair hand. So I want to give him the right price to call here with his hand, and he goes ahead and does just that. We show the straight, and he folds what was top pair with an ace kicker. So happy with that. All right, so the next hand of note is a smaller pot, but there's a lot of lessons, I think, to be noted in this hand. It folds to Breonna Taylor, who decides to raise from the small blind to $40, if I'm not mistaken. It's just so hard to tell. Again, these graphics are a little wonky. Not their graphics, it's just me and Post looking at these graphics. He does raise to 45, and I'm in the straddle with King-Queen offsuit. This is an error right here. This is 100% we in position. This is 1,000,000% a 3-bet. We decide not to for some reason, so we screw ourselves over, but that's okay. You know, it happens. You got to live. You got to learn. The flop is King Deuce 4 with, what is that? A heart and a diamond and a club, or 2 diamonds, excuse me. So there is a flush out there. Breonna Taylor decides to bet $50, and I decide to just call. The turn comes to 6 of hearts. Again, with top pair, almost the nut kicker, right? I'm feeling super, super confident in my hand by this point. And again, I think his name is Chase, actually, so we'll start referring to him by his name. Chase decides that it's a good idea to start betting once again, and he does exactly that. If I'm not mistaken, Chase bets about $135. And again, not much we can do here besides just call. Everything has been played fairly ABC to this point, besides not 3-betting pre-flop, which is absolutely an error. But by the time we get to the river, Chase decides to check, and I immediately know it's my turn to go for value here. There's no way that I'm going to miss out value. And I think a lot of people, and they mentioned the commentary booth, just snap check back here with top pair. As you can see, I bet $125 or $155, a really small value bet, and I get snap called by Chase, who obviously doesn't have the best hand here. He has King Jack. So make sure you're squeaking out value in spots that maybe don't seem like the regular spot, you know? Let's make some money. That's the point in poker, right? Alrighty, so now we're winding down to some really fun and aggressive hands, and that's the point, and that's the reason you guys watch this channel, right? So we look down at 10-8 of clubs in the +2 position. We get a call here from Frank. Frank is a really solid player, fairly aggressive, but you know he's pretty tight aggressive, but does choose some really nice spots. I really like the way he plays. So shout out to you, Frank. You're a stud at the table, and yeah, it was a pleasure playing with you, my guy. Anyways, we get over to Alex, who decides to make the call as well of my initial $40 raise. And it turns over to, I think, no one else. I think that's everyone in the hand. Sorry. Again, I'm slowly catching up with these stupid graphics, so pardon me for that reason. Anyways, we're just waiting on the graphics to catch up here. Jeez Louise. The flop is ace queen 7 with 1 club. This is a pretty great flop for my range, and again, I talk about this all the time. This is a great flop for my range, bad flop for my hand. But even then, I have a couple different backdoor opportunities to make the best hand with a backdoor straight and backdoor flush draw. I go ahead and c-bet for $60 if I'm not mistaken, and Frank decides to make the call as well. Again, with our bet here, we're pretty much betting range. By betting half pot, I have my entire range protected in this situation. So hands as strong as top set, and hands as poor as 10 high. So we get a fold from Alex, who folded Queen Jack, as you can see there. Pretty tight nitty fold. And on this turn card, we get that nice card as we mentioned before. And in this situation, I know immediately this is time to put on the pressure. With this gut shot, I want to just put maximum pressure on Frank and get him out of the hand with I'm trying to get like Queen 10, Queen Jack, Queen 9, those kind of hands to fold, and even some shitty aces. He quickly folds to our over pot size bet, and there you go. He folded queen jack. So as you can see, aggression worked out for our favor. Alrighty, let's get into the very next hand. A lot of hands to go over. That's the best part about this overlay that we get to see in post. It's a little less work for me to do, but it's a lot of fun watching my stupid mannerisms and my ticks happening right in front of me. Anyways, I go ahead and raise to $40. Frank decides to make the call. Jwin is in this spot, who's been 3-betting me a couple times today. And you can't see the cards. The graphics haven't updated yet, but I do have queen jack of diamonds. Jwin decides to take this opportunity to make a fun little 3-bet here. And his 3-bet sizing will be mentioned as soon as I can see it. But in my head immediately, I'm thinking that, I'm always going to call this with queen jack. It's just, with queen jack suited, there's just no way I'm gonna consider giving this up. Even though I'm out of position, I just, queen jack suited is just too strong, especially playing, what is this, like 400 or, yeah, literally 400 big blinds deep, effective in this spot. There's just no way I'm ever going to fold queen jack suited pre-flop. I go ahead and make the call. He made it 160 total. And Frank pretty quickly calls as well. We're going to go ahead to a flop, which is fairly inconsequential. Absolutely no fun on this flop to be had. Again, that's not the flop. That's the flop from yesterday, I think. So there we go. The flop is 10 deuce 4 with 2 clubs, or 2 spades, excuse me. Again, it's kind of hard to read this graphic, so forgive me. And it almost instantly just checks through. And as you can see from the actual graphic board on the bottom, the turn is a queen of hearts. So absolute gin for me. I go ahead and check. Frank checks as well. And Jwin thinks it's now time to start telling a story. He goes ahead and bets $225 or $250, one of the two. Obviously, with my top pair, decent kicker, there's no way I'm going to fold here. Do have to be considerate of king queen and ace queen in his range, and even some trappy hands like aces and kings, but there's no way I'm going to fold to just one bet. I go ahead and make the call, and as you can see, the graphics don't catch up with us here, but Frank, out of nowhere, Frank the Tank decides that it would be a great idea to make it $750 to go. And in this situation, I almost instantly feel like, all right, what hands for value can he have? Queen 10, that's it. But even then, Queen 10 should be betting the turn. Why would Queen check be checking? He flops top pair. It's fine to check and flow, but then for it to check to you once again on the turn and not bet, that's a little wonky. So I feel like we're pretty much. I mean, I don't want to be ridiculous and be that guy that's like, oh, he just has X, but I feel like he absolutely has an airball here. There's just no way that I can find a hand for value that makes sense the way it's been played. Again, there's always like weird hands, like, if he has a queen deuce, I guess, something ridiculous, or pocket fours or pocket deuces that flop the set. Even then, the board is just too dynamic to check through twice, and that's the point of this. So I go ahead and check. He checks back, and he has pocket 7. So like his creativity there, but I was almost calling absolutely any river bet. As I mentioned, when the flop has a flush draw and he doesn't see bet the turn for value after it gets checked to him twice, I don't think he has any hands for value. So maybe I'm stubborn, but that's just how I felt in the situation. Anyways, we look down at pocket kings here in the +3 or +2 position. We've been waking up with some big premiums in this situation, but we haven't been able to get paid off with any of those really big premiums. We're going to go ahead and get it folded to Alex. Alex decides to make the call here from the button. Obviously, nothing wrong with that. And we get over to what is the big blind, and I think this is it was like Cool. I forgot what this Cool Raul was his name. Jeez, it was slipping my mind. Pardon me. Cool Raul thinks it's a better idea to raise the stakes here. He goes ahead and 3-bets it to $215, if I'm not mistaken. $210, pardon me. And it gets back to me. And Cool Raul hasn't really made any Cool Raul type moves pre-flop, at least not to my knowledge at this point in the session. So I'm feeling almost instantly that this guy has a really strong hand and he wants to play for an even bigger pot. So I go ahead and 3-bet it to $635, and it gets back to Cool Raul. who starts thinking about it. And when he's in the tank, obviously this feels pretty good to me, but he almost quickly makes the fold. And I'm super, to me in real time, I'm like, oh, okay, he just had a bluff, whatever. It's not a big deal. And he immediately told me that he folded pocket queen. So that's a heartbreaker. I want to talk a little bit more about it. Obviously, the graphic ends there, but pardon me, there is something more to talk about with that hand. I think I made it a little too big pre-flop. We were both sitting like 500 big blinds deep pre-flop. And that's the question. Is it actually exciting to get 1,000 big blinds deep, 1,000 big blind pot in pre-flop with pocket kings? Like, how many times are you an absolute super slam dunk favorite? I mean, I'm sure it's closer than you think. So, with that being said, I think I really dislike the sizing I chose. In real time, I felt like 3x was just perfect considering how deep we were. But even then, I mean, I'm putting like 125 big blinds in pre-flop, and I still have 400 plus behind. I'm personally sitting on 1,000 effective, and he's sitting on well over 500 effective. So I really, really hate my sizing now that I've had some time to think about it and let it kind of soak in. But beyond that, I think what the commentator's going to, it is insane that he found a fold there. It is unbelievable that he did. To find a fold there is like, it's really unbelievable. I mean, but again, as he mentioned right after he folded the hand, he's saying that, I mean, if you're bluffing, that's awesome, but I don't want to get, in 1,000 big blind pot with pocket queens when your range is like ace king plus and, kings plus, queens plus, and even then he has pocket queens, so it's unlikely. So with all that being said, don't like my sizing. I think if I went like 510-ish, 500-ish, there's no way he folds. And considering somebody already folded a queen, it's unlikely that he would have, outflopped us. So, everything happens for a reason. Whatever reason he decided to fold, maybe it was his turn to save some money and my turn not to win anymore. But kind of wanted to put that in there. I didn't want to just be like, oh, I 4-bet kings pre-flop and we won the pot. No, I think I really played that hand poorly. And it's important that you mention that in this vlog. We're both trying to learn here. You, the viewer, and Kiran, the idiot, we're trying to learn here. So hopefully that's a little better. Understand the sizing, understand the stack ratios, understand what you're doing. When we're sitting 500 effective in a 2-5 game, which doesn't happen very often, especially, it doesn't happen often in LA. It's really unlikely in a 2-5 game to be sitting with 500 big blinds effective, 2 stacks. So just thought I mentioned that. I did play the hand poorly. I didn't like the sizing that I chose. Alrighty, I think we're winding down here. These are going to be one of the last hands of the night, if I'm not mistaken. It's just so hard to tell. Alex looks down at pocket fours. Jesus Christ, I shouldn't have said it, but I guess it doesn't really matter anyways. Tillman decides to make the call after the limp from Alex. And then we get a little situation here where one of the gentlemen that has been playing fairly snug, I mean, at least from my understanding, I haven't seen him play any hands really. He's only like 3-bet or 4-bet hands pre-flop, like ace, kings, aces, and stuff like that. So he decides to raise the price of poker to $65. I look down at ace, jack of diamonds from the straddle, and I kind of wish in this spot again that I played a little more aggressive and less passive, but I wasn't all there. I was not feeling too well at this point in the session. So I just decided to make the call, and I invite 2 other players behind me to make the call as well. The flop seems like absolute gin to me. The flop is ace 5-3 with 2 clubs and 1 spade. Flopping top pair here. I'm going to continue to play in flow and check to the initial raiser. It'll eventually get checked to him at some point. One thing I will note, as you can see, Tillman has like an odd affinity to this flop, it seems like. It seems like he's thinking about betting, thinking about checking, and he decides to go ahead and make the check. With all that being said, it checks to the initial raiser, who decides to check it back, and eventually we'll get to a turn card at some point in this hand, and it's time for me to start putting some money in this pot. I feel like very confident in my hand. The 9 peels off on the turn. I think it's about time that I start betting for value here, and I go ahead and do just that. I go ahead and bet $175. into this pot of let's see what it was pre-flop. Let's see. Eventually, I will know at some point in this hand. If I'm not mistaken, I think I bet 75% pot in this spot. And Tillman decides to make the call. So by the time we get to the river, I'm fairly conscious and worried about the front door flush that's going to be coming. I'm also worried about a straight. And on the river, it's one of those cards. Not the card I was looking for. It's a 7 of spades. But I know that I'm going to call almost any bet considering my hand is just way too up in my range. Way too high in my range at this point. So I decide to take the initiative and make what is a little probe bet, also known as a blocker bet. I go ahead and bet super, super tiny here. I think I bet $135 or something ridiculous like that. What is this? Let's see. I bet $225 into this pot. And again, I do so because I know exactly what's going on here. I don't feel comfortable in the situation. I feel like a lot of straight draws get there. Some funky 2 pairs, 8-7, 7-5 get there as well. And I go ahead and I guess I'm right because he shows 5-3. So obviously happy with my little blocker bet on the river. Betting a third size pot. You know, it always feels good when, you know, you get called and you're right. And it also feels good when you called and they obviously had a better hand that could have gone for a little bit of a bigger sizing. So maybe save myself a couple $100 there. Nothing wrong with that. But to end the session, we end up being up about exactly 2K. And I am honestly over the moon about it. Considering early in the session, we put a huge bluff and ended up being down fairly early. How can you complain about that, man? I'm really happy with the way I played. With all things considered, I wasn't feeling too well on this trip. And it feels good to battle back sometimes. So that is about going to wrap it up for the session today. It's been a ton of fun to be out here in Austin. I ended up falling asleep right when I got back home, and I pretty much just passed out. I hope you guys enjoyed the vlog, though. A lot of fun things took place in this episode, meeting a lot of new people, getting to play poker in a new city. And like I mentioned to start off the vlog, the hospitality, the people, the staff at TCH Austin. I cannot speak highly enough of the staff here at TCH Austin. I mean, honest to God. I have played poker in the entirety of North America, at least in all the hubs. And I mentioned that before, but man, the hospitality, they really care about you. And they care about the players especially. So big shout out to them. I will be back very soon to play the game. The game was a ton of fun. Although I felt like at times I was just running really well, as you saw there. Shout out to Frank and Jay Wynn. Those two boys are really pushing the action. Jay Wynn was a watch of the vlog. Shout out to him. He's a very solid player. Made a huge call against me with that 7-4 bluff. And then Frank also ran pretty well, but he was in for the action. That's always a good time. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one and the way we handled it today. I'll see you guys around. I love you all dearly. And until the next episode, peace!